Welcome, everybody, to the Alpha Koncepts Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Kroll, and I will be with you on this adventure as we dive into the gun culture. Today, I have a friend, Patrick, with me, and he's got an interesting story about when the police were called on him for lawfully carrying a concealed firearm, and we're going to talk about a few other things going on in the gun world. Patrick, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
So, like I said, you got swatted once, and for those who aren't aware of what swatting is, that's basically when someone whose panties are on too tight has a hair sideways up their ass, and they call the police on someone for having a firearm lawfully. Basically, the goal is to try to, at minimum, inconvenience their day, but there have been instances where people who have concealed carry licenses and are carrying firearms get spotted, and when the cops come, bad things can happen. So, Patrick, tell me a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of years back, I think, if I remember correctly, this was 2018. It was September 2018. I think it was actually on my birthday.
That's a great birthday gift.
No, I know, right? I was out driving Uber. It was in the evening, taking a couple of fares, starting to feel hungry. Went over to my local Taco Bell right over in Villa Park, Illinois, which is right by where I'm from. Went inside to get me some chow and take a break. First thing first, I went inside. I see the clerk at the register. She begins to take my order. I give her my order. Don't really remember all the specifics. I just remember it was about $16 and change.
That's a lot for Taco Bell.
Yeah, it actually is. I was pretty hungry. Anyway, she take my order down, and I paid for it, and then she's looking at me. She's like, hold on, I'll be right back. I was like, whatever, no big deal. A couple minutes later, another gentleman walks out from behind, who was the manager. I remember seeing his name tag. It said Johnny. And Johnny walks up and he asked me, "That you have a gun on you? You have two guns on you?" He was looking at the little bulge under my T-shirt where the gun was, and then he saw the other bulge, which were the extra mags. Anyway, I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, "You have a permit for that?" I'm like, yes. And I pull out my wallet. I show it to him. Let's be clear here. I'm under no obligation to do that.
Right.
But I did it anyway because I'm a nice guy. I'm not looking for unnecessary conflict. Just want everyone to
Just want to eat your tacos.
Exactly. Want to be left alone. But he didn't like that, and he started screaming at me that I couldn't be there, and he told me I had to leave. And I was not happy, but I left. I turned around and left. I go out to my car, and I sit inside my car, and I begin. First thing I did is I turned it on, and I'm thinking about what I'm about to post on the internet about what just happened. And before I could leave, I get surrounded by cop cars, probably about half a dozen, roughly, give or take. And I start hearing screaming to get out of the car, So I'm freaking out a little bit, but shut the car off, open the door, and I'm ordered on my knees, and I'm cuffed. And mind you, I had some guns pointed at me.
Sure.
Never had a gun pointed at me before until that night. So I'm on the ground, knees on the ground. They're screaming at me about why I'm carrying a gun. And I can't even get a word in edgewise with them for the first minute or two. And then finally I hear someone say, "So what the fuck are you doing carrying a gun and you don't have a permit on you?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, officer. I have a permit." Pull it out of my wallet. It's in my back pocket. So they pull it out, and they see that permit right away. And then I go, "And for your information, officer, there's another firearm in the car." Just trying to lay that out there. So they go to my car, and they take the 38 snub-nose revolver that I had in the center console, and they're asking me about what happened, and I tell them what happened. And then I'm assuming he was the commander of the squad that was on the scene. He says, "Man, we're really, really sorry about what happened. we got a 911 call that there was someone inside the store and that you had your gun drawn and you were threatening everybody inside the restaurant.
Wow. So that's what the employees said.
That's what the manager told him who made the 911 call, which was absolutely not true, factually inaccurate, and downright dangerous based on the information that he fed the officer. And the officer's telling me, he's like, we're really sorry. We're just acting on what was given to us. And I told him it's no big deal. I understand. It's nothing that, nothing you guys did any wrong.
Well, I would disagree. It is a big deal. It's not their fault. It wasn't the cops' fault, right? But it is a huge deal because, you've got a muzzle of a firearm pointed at you. Things could have went horribly wrong. And then what? I mean, the person at the who filed the 911 call, who called the police, they filed a false complaint, basically.
Absolutely. And he directly lied to the 911 operator when he said that the firearm was drawn and that I was pointing it at people inside, which was absolutely not true, not what happened.
So then what did the police do after you explained the situation?
They uncuffed me right away. They took my firearm, which they'd taken out of my holster, and it was unloaded, and they threw the rounds into a baggie, and they put that all in my trunk, and they told me to drive away before taking it out and loading it again, which I did. And I was a little freaked out, so I just got up and left.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after that, I just got in my car and I drove. I didn't take any fares. I didn't think about what was happening. I just drove. And then I called a friend of mine who's actually in the Secret Service, and I told him the story because I didn't know who to talk to and talk about what happened. So I called him and I talked to him for a little bit.
What was his opinion about what happened?
Oh, he was absolutely with me on that. He said that was completely inappropriate and could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you literally are talking about life and death. It's a good thing that the officers weren't jumpy and had proper training. And it's a good thing that you weren't making any accidental furtive movements because of your own nerves. I can imagine having that many squad cars around you would make any average person quite nervous. And if they're there for a call of a man with a gun making threats, and now you're jumping around, that could have ended with a few extra holes.
Well, absolutely. But the most important thing to also take away from that is I cooperated. I cooperated with the officers. I answered their questions. Did not hassle them. Did not make their job any harder than it needed to be. And that's why I wasn't shot. That's why I'm alive.
So,
unlike a lot of other incidents that have happened lately.
Well, let me ask you this question: did anything happen to the employees that you're aware of?
Nothing that I was made aware of. A few days after, first off, I went and I complained to. I went on the Taco Bell feedback website page, whatever you want to call it, and I listed out what happened. And I got a call a couple days later from, I think it was the district manager. And I told him what happened and that I was not happy. And we had a good long discussion on the phone for probably a good half an hour. And no resolution. But then a couple of days after that, his boss called me. And again, I said, you know what? I want this manager fired.
Sure.
He was dishonest. He attempted to use law enforcement as a weapon against me, and it could have gotten me killed, could have gotten me seriously hurt. And I remember telling him that I wanted a refund for my food.
Yeah, so you didn't even get your money back?
No.
Wow.
Nothing. And the regional manager told me, he's like, oh, yeah, we'll get you your refund. Well, I never got the refund.
$16 down the drain.
$16.
Usually Taco Bell goes down the drain a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think? Okay, so your goal was to have some kind of punitive damage against the manager. You wanted the manager fired. And I don't think that's out of the ordinary. If that happened to me, I would want that at very least, to be honest with you. That's a dangerous person to be out in public, in my opinion. Having the cops pull a gun on you because of a false claim is no different than that manager pulling a gun out on you, in my opinion. He's just doing it by proxy. So that's a dangerous person to be out there in public, to be so afraid that someone has, maybe he's not aware of the hurdles we have to go through to carry firearms, but to be so afraid of somebody who's, lawfully carrying a firearm that you're going to try to get them killed. That is a sign of a mental problem, in my opinion. And for anyone listening that's not aware, in Illinois, there's a 16-hour training class. Part of that 16-hour training class is basically boils down to a basic pistol type class, learning how to operate the firearm, and then a law seminar which covers, where you can carry, where you can't carry, how to stay in the good graces of the law, interaction with law enforcement, which obviously you were paying good attention to. So we have a 16-hour class. We have a shooting qualification. We have mental health checks. We can't have more than 2 DUIs. We can't have been arrested for any violent, even violent threats. So it's a pretty lengthy list of requirements. Concealed carriers are the most honest of the honest, and these are the people that you want to hassle. Someone's going about it all wrong, in my opinion.
Well, my biggest problem was not even so much getting thrown out of the restaurant. That sucked. That was not pleasant, and I would never go back there just for that. But the issue that I have the biggest problem with is that the manager called and lied about what happened.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%. That's a huge issue. That's a false complaint, and I would even think that would be against the law. To file a false complaint like that, certainly the video cameras are going to clearly show that wasn't the case, and I'm surprised you didn't take it further, to be honest with you.
Well, a few weeks later, after not being satisfied with how the regional manager dealt with me, I actually did go and talk to one attorney about what happened. And long story short, I went and told him what happened. And he goes, well, I'm going to present these to my partners. We'll get back to you. He never did. And
that was it.
I had enough was enough. And
yeah, right.
Nothing happened after that.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Just going about your day doing nothing wrong. So let me ask you, have you changed anything do you do anything differently since this incident? Did you learn anything from this incident?
Yeah, I'm a little more mindful about what I'm carrying and what I'm wearing. I actually quit using that holster after that incident. Didn't think it was a very good holster, but yeah, that was the last day on that holster. Sure. After that incident.
So was it outside the waistband, inside the waistband?
It was an outside the waistband belt holster. It was actually a Glock branded holster.
Well, knowing you, it's always going to be a Glock branded something. How do you feel, off topic real quick, how do you feel about the Glock reintroducing the original Glock?
I haven't heard too much about that, to be quite honest with you.
But I'm sure you're going to be first in line to get one.
Oh, probably.
So I'm assuming you carry now an inside the waistband holster?
No, I still carry outside the waistband, but it's a different holster, and I'm more careful about my T-shirts, about how much I print. I've been buying larger T-shirts to cover that up.
That's an excellent point. In my classes, I tell all my students that carrying a concealed firearm is a lifestyle choice. It's not just something that you do. And I explain to them it's going to change the way you dress, or it should change the way you dress. And I think you learned that lesson the hard way. I carry inside the waistband, so now I buy all my pants an inch larger and all my shirts an inch or two longer. And, I dress for the gun rather than just carrying the gun. I dress around the gun, so as you said, I'm not printing. It's harder for people to notice. Some people just don't care. You're like, as long as it's covered, then it's concealed, and screw these crazy people. But obviously these crazy people do have some power over us, as sad as it is to say, based on your experience. So yeah, you can go around just covering up the gun, or you can really try to hide it, and so we don't have to deal with the nonsense that these mental potatoes try to throw at us.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I've changed a little bit about how I dress, but it's nothing drastic, and it's nothing that nobody is going to look at me and say, wow, you really changed your wardrobe up.
Sure.
It's very minor. No one would know unless I told them.
That's good. That's kind of the way it's supposed to be. That's the point of concealed carry, in my opinion, so people don't know. Obviously, everyone's got a different opinion. Some people would open carry if they could, and that's a personal choice. I don't think the government should be making that decision for us. I think that should be a personal choice. Well, while I mentioned that, would you open carry if given the opportunity?
Yes, under the right circumstances. I've done it a little bit when I've been out of state. I went on a trip out to Colorado a couple of months ago, and in Colorado, state of Colorado will not honor an Illinois state-issued carry permit. Colorado will also not honor non-resident permits. Your only option to carry a gun if you are a resident of Illinois is to carry openly. And I did plenty of that over there. If you go on my Facebook, my profile picture has a picture of me open carrying.
What were people's opinions? Did anyone say anything or even give you a second glance?
Nothing. No one even acted that they noticed.
Yeah, so did you see any other people carrying?
I did not. I was surprised.
Were you in big cities or were you in rural areas or?
I was out by, I spent most of my time out by Fort Collins, Colorado.
I'm geographically impaired when we get outside of Illinois. Tell me, Fort Collins, is that like a larger size city? Is that a smaller size town?
It's probably, I would consider that a very large town, not really a city. It's up in northern Colorado. It's actually the site where there was an attempted Antifa riot, which was put down.
Oh, okay, sure.
But, yeah, I spent some time out there, and then I went to Rocky Mountain National Park and open carried the entire time there. Did not have any problems whatsoever.
That's good. I mean, that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. You're not doing anything wrong, so no one should be hassling you.
I'm sure people saw. I actually went out for lunch at Mod Pizza out there, too. I remember being there, and I was wearing a white T-shirt, so a black gun on a white T-shirt doesn't make for a better contrast.
Yeah, right.
So I'm sure people saw, but no one was offended. No one was bothered. Nobody tried to swat me. Nothing.
So you're a young guy. How long have you been carrying?
I've been carrying a firearm since Illinois legalized it.
Great. That's good.
I was one of the very first people to get a carry license.
Excellent. I wish, there's like 300-something thousand now. I wish more people would. 2.5 million registered gun owners in the state of Illinois, and only, let's say, roughly 350,000 are carrying a firearm. That doesn't count the gangbangers who've been carrying a firearm for many decades. But, yeah, I mean, I wish more people would exercise their rights and carry. Why did you get into guns in the first place?
I always had a thing for guns. I had an uncle when I was a little kid that taught me how to shoot a .22 lever-action rifle. So he taught me the fun part about it all. But I didn't get more serious about it until I was in high school, and I had a teacher in high school when I was a junior, and he taught economics, and he was very big on guns, and he actually took us all down to Igold.
Wow, really?
Which was very nice of him, and that was my introduction to the gun rights movement in Illinois. And obviously this was before concealed carry was legalized in Illinois.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, my first iGold was probably 2011, something like that, 2012 maybe. So it seems like you were probably at iGold even before me.
Yep. No, I went down there. I have to think about this. It was the spring. I think it was the spring of '09.
For anyone unaware of what iGold is, that's Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day. That's occurred once a year, I think, for like the last 20 years, every single year except 2020 for obvious reasons. Basically, a group of Illinois gun owners is sponsored by the Illinois State Rifle Association. It's organized by multiple groups that kind of help promote it, but it is the baby of the Illinois State Rifle Association. And a lot of groups get down there, meet up. We have a rally, we march, we parade, then about a mile to the state capitol building, and then the goal is to meet with and talk to our elected officials. Really, it's just an opportunity to stand up and be counted. the pro-gun politicians are going to be out there shaking hands, having conversations. They love it. The anti-gun politicians lock themselves away in their offices and hide away. And, a lot of people complain, well, they won't talk to me, and that's not really the point. The point is to stand up and be counted. And I really wish more gun owners would exercise their First Amendment right to defend their Second Amendment because, I think at our peak, 9,000 roughly. So again, we have 2.5 million registered gun owners in the state of Illinois. And I think at our peak, we had like 9,000 gun owners, which seems like a big number, but when you think about it, it's not even 1%. It's not even half of 1% of gun owners. So we need more people to stand up and be counted. We need 50, 60, 100,000 people down there one day a year. It just makes sense. It's a great time, and you get to hang out with your buddies and talk about guns and meet new interesting people and there's vendors that you can network with that have booths set up, so you can get to know new businesses and every state, I'm sure, has something different, similar, and it's just important, I think, for every single gun owner. One day a year, there's no excuse. Don't say my job won't give me a day off. Everyone can have one day off a year. Unless somebody's in the hospital, there's really not very many valid excuses not to participate. Get involved in your gun owner lobby day, and hopefully, we can have in 2021 in Illinois. Hopefully, we can have 20,000 people down there. That would be great, especially since we didn't have an iGold this year in 2020. And it's great that your teacher brought you down there at such a young age and got you guys, introduced to what I consider to be your civic duty. People say, well, voting alone is not enough. We've got to take part in rallies like this, and it's great. I mean, I'm actually really shocked that there wasn't any sort of backlash, and I wonder if he would get away with that nowadays in today's age.
Well, I went to a private high school, which really helped out a lot. So it wasn't like I went to public school. I'm sure if I was in public school, we'd all be suspended for a good week or two for having the gall to attend a rally related to firearms.
You know what? That's kind of interesting. It's a good segue to something I read a day or two ago. Give me your opinion on this. There was a young child, I think in Colorado, who just got suspended from homeschooling from the telecommute homeschool because the teacher saw a toy gun in the background on his Zoom meeting. And he got suspended from school, a school that he's doing in his bedroom. And you mentioned you probably would have got suspended for going down to this rally. I mean, that's craziness. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that teacher who got that kid in trouble should absolutely be fired. And whoever made the decision to suspend him needs to be fired. And they need to be looking at lawsuits. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in my opinion, school should be all about facts, not opinions, not politics, simply facts. If you're a teacher and your kids know what your political beliefs are, then you're doing it wrong. And I've had conversations with my children's teachers, where my daughter would come home and say that the teacher said this, that, or the other. And rather than fly off the handle, which is, my immediate instinct, I can't believe they said that. What the hell is wrong with them? I've always tried to, talk to the teacher first and get clarification, so to speak, their side of the story to make sure my child didn't misunderstand. But, there's no misunderstanding in a situation like that where the kid has a toy gun. I mean, it's crazy. It's a toy gun in his bedroom. Listen, if you don't want him bringing a toy gun to his bedroom, then open up the schools and allow him to go to school like a normal person. And then to suspend him for having a toy. My child has more toy guns than I have real guns, my son. It's to the point where I feel like I need to buy more guns because he's got me beat by a wide margin. And it would be very easy in one of these Zoom meetings for him to, have left the gun on a table or a desk or something, one of his Nerf guns. And if I'm going to have the cops come to my house or he's going to get suspended for that, heads would roll for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the left likes to talk about how they're leftists and they hate they hate people who aren't leftists because they're all Nazis, but it's the left that acts like Nazis, just like this incident.
Well, I mean, it's just interesting to me when a lot of times people who are preaching tolerance are the most intolerant of them all. I don't know the teacher's political beliefs, but it's pretty obvious that she's not a friend of gun freedoms. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, what type of shooting activities do you take part in?
For now, it's just whatever I get an opportunity to participate in, I'll be there. I mean, when after my time at iGold the first time, for example, didn't really touch a gun for the next few years. But then I had a family friend named Bruce, who is now deceased, unfortunately. But I started spending some time with him, and he was a certified NRA instructor, and he also had a lot of ties to the Aurora Sportsman's Club and to Project Appleseed.
Project Appleseed is a great organization. It's like $60 for a 2-day class. They're going to teach you what I call simulated precision rifle, but more importantly, at the same point in time, they're teaching Revolutionary War history, and their goal is to explain the history and how marksmen won this nation. They're trying to raise the next generation of marksmen while also simultaneously trying to prevent any sort of second revolution from occurring by building people's awareness. I think it's an awesome organization, especially to take younger kids shooting. And I've seen kids, 10 years old participating. I've gone twice, and that's a must have. I'll call it a class or event for any new shooter who wants to get introduced to rifle shooting. It's an excellent event.
Yeah, no, definitely. I owe my affection for firearms to three people. The first one being my uncle, who first taught me how to shoot. And then it was my high school teacher, and he introduced me to the concept of concealed carry, and he got me down to iGold. Didn't even know about iGold until I met him. But then, when I started hanging out with Bruce, who was that family friend, he actually he turned me from someone who liked guns to more like a gun rights activist.
That's great. We need more activists. Every gun owner should be an activist. I'm going to be doing a podcast about that coming up in the next few weeks, but every single gun owner needs to be defending their rights. It's that important because, like I said before, less than 1% of gun owners do. And we need every single gun owner to get active. You don't have to be extreme, but geez, every gun owner needs to get a little bit more active. So you mentioned before you drive Uber?
I did.
Okay.
I haven't. I gave that up a few years ago.
Okay, good. So then we can talk about this. What is your opinion on the Uber's policy about drivers not carrying firearms while they're driving for Uber?
I mean, it's easy for people who work for Uber to make those policies when they're not the ones doing the driving.
Yeah, they're not on the front line, so to speak. They're in an ivory tower somewhere making a decision that you don't have the right to defend yourself while you're picking up their customer, their client, some strange person you've never met who could be completely normal or completely insane, who may have, no ill intentions whatsoever, or maybe intent on murdering you and stealing your car, and they're telling you basically that you have absolutely no right to defend yourself. I think that is absolutely insane, and obviously you ignored that policy.
Oh, I ignored it every time I drove. Never drove without it. If you're an Uber driver, just don't tell Uber. The only way Uber should ever find out you were carrying a firearm is if you needed it, and if you needed it, then clearly that was more important than not needing it.
Right, it's better to lose your job than to lose your life. I think that's for sure.
Life's not a video game.
Right, there's no respawns. That's 100%. There's no respawns. You get one life at one crack at this. And, it's also like you said, just don't tell them. You're not breaking the law by ignoring a company policy. So, yeah, you might lose your job or you're an independent contractor or whatever. They'll cancel your contract. But, in that situation, it's not like it's a violation of the gun-free zone. It's not a misdemeanor. Basically, you just go drive for Lyft or find another job. That's the bottom line. And it's better to be alive and looking for another job than not to have to worry about that anymore because they're planting you in the ground. So defend yourself. I tell all my students, I tell anyone who will listen, carry whenever and wherever legally possible and avoid anywhere where it's not legally possible.
Yeah, in this case, it's okay to break the rules. You're not breaking the law.
Sure.
There's a difference.
100% agree. Absolutely. What does your family think about your gun rights advocacy and your love for guns?
They really have very little interest in it. Well, they've had very little interest in it my entire life. That's actually changing a tiny bit because actually this Saturday, I've got a friend of mine who's coming over to my house and he's giving a concealed carry class, and one of those students is going to be my dad.
That's awesome.
And that all changed because of all the rioting and the looting and the burning that's occurred.
I mean, humans are reactionary, and yeah, it's a lot. In my classes, my concealed carry classes, it is a lot of new shooters. Concealed carry classes up until this year have been basically a mix. When concealed carry first passed, it was all experienced shooters. Over the last few years, because I've been training since actually in a couple weeks. In 20 days, roughly, it will be my 7th year anniversary of teaching concealed carry classes. And as I said in the beginning, it was all experienced shooters. Some of them, could put one ragged hole through the target. Excellent marksmen. Then, as public awareness, people got more aware that, hey, we're not the bloodthirsty criminals that the media painted us out to be. Hey, there's not blood in the streets. Hey, there's been defensive gun uses where people have saved their lives with firearms, and the media hysteria and hyperbole never came true. Then it started to be more casual gun owners, and now this year I've got classes, 18 people, and I would say, maybe 4 or 5 out of the 18 are experienced gun owners, and the rest are really new, maybe haven't even shot a gun before or only shot a gun once or twice in their lives. And they're now, because of everything that's going on in this nation, they're now getting a little bit more aware that the government cannot protect them, and they're starting to take their own self-protection more seriously. So that's awesome that your father has got that awareness. It's sad that it takes an event like mass rioting to get people aware, but at the same point in time, I'm really happy that more and more people are getting aware, and concealed carry is becoming more mainstream. And like I said, 350,000 concealed carriers in Illinois. I really hope and I really expect that number is going to be significantly higher next year, even though, in spite of the fact that Illinois is losing population, more people are moving out of Illinois than are being born or moving into Illinois. But despite that fact, I really hope and I really expect that the number of concealed carry licenses at this time next year will be, maybe 400, maybe 450,000. That would be a really nice demographic to see happen.
Well, it's a shame it just costs so much money to get your permit and to get your requirements met to get that permit, because if it didn't cost so much money, I do believe there'd be a lot more permit holders in the state of Illinois.
Well, I absolutely think that's by design. 100%. I mean, you think about it like this. All of gun control is designed to dissuade people from wanting to own, carry, exercise their right. It's a 16-hour class, and look, I'm an instructor. I've got to rent classroom space. I got to rent range space. That costs money. And so I have to pass those costs along. I do it. I've had instructors. I'm doing a 16-hour class for $150, including range fees. And I've had instructors message me and telling me that I'm killing the market. I'm not charging enough, but I'm doing it because I love to do it. And yes, I need to cover my costs. And yes, I want to make some money, but I'm not trying to take advantage of people. I believe personally that constitutional carry, meaning that if you're not in jail, if you're legal to own a gun, you're legal to carry a gun. I believe that is the only the only type. Some people say the Second Amendment is their concealed carry permit, and I agree. However, that defense might not hold up in court, and it's 16-hour class. You can pay $150, $200, whatever. Ammunition nowadays, a box of 50 round 9mm, you're going to pay probably $30. I've seen cheaper than dirt. Raping people at $60 for a box of just Full Metal Jacket Plinker 9mm. So now you're up to $200, $250, and then you've got your state application fee, which is $150. This is solely designed to prevent people from exercising their right, and they don't want people to carry, so they're making it as difficult and as hard as possible to allow us to do so, and that's just highly unfortunate. And I agree with you. I believe that you're right. I believe that more people would carry a firearm if the restrictions weren't so difficult.
Yeah, no, and I mean, by comparison, state of Indiana just eliminated their application fees. In the state of Indiana, if you want your carry permit, you gotta take some formalized training. So that could just be a 2 or 3 hour NRA basic pistol class. You gotta get your fingerprints taken. That is mandatory in Indiana, but there's no application fee in Indiana. It's no charge.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Indiana do a lifetime permit?
They do issue a lifetime permit.
Right, and so they're going to do a lifetime permit, and here in Illinois, it's a 5-year renewal, a 3-hour renewal class. And, of course, how long does Indiana take to issue licenses? My guess is a month, right? Probably.
It's less than a month. I'm told it's about 2 weeks.
So there you go, 2 weeks. And in Illinois, it's taking them 5-6 months to issue firearm owner identification cards, which don't even go to the level of background checking that a concealed carry license does. I've got students waiting, 5 months for a concealed carry license, and it's crazy. And then you want to buy a gun, you got to wait. Sometimes right now, background checks are taking right around 10 days. That number's dropping a little bit. It's a 3-day waiting period in the state of Illinois, but the state police are taking sometimes 10 days to approve firearm purchases. I mean, that's insane to me.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I got a friend who bought his first gun a couple of months ago. I remember he was telling me that he picked it up over at Gat Guns out in I think it's East Dundee.
Correct.
And it took about 10 days for his background check to clear.
Yeah, and that's not Gat's fault. The gun dealers were catching a lot of flack for that. It solely is the Illinois State Police causing that delay. And I can say that with confidence because I reached out to some dealers in other states and multiple dealers in multiple states, and I asked them, what are your backgrounds, coming back? Are they instantaneous? And some of them had said, yeah, we're having some delays. And I was like, what are your delays? Oh, we're getting, approvals next day usually. Next day. So, people are blaming the FBI, the National Instant Check System. The FBI runs the check. In the state of Illinois, we have the FTIP, which is the same as the Instant Check System, but the state police will run additional checks. The bottleneck is solely at the Firearm Services Bureau departments, with the Illinois State Police. They're understaffed. They're underfunded because the bureaucrats in Springfield swiped $30 million out of their account. They just spent $10 million on phones. I mean, that's insane to me. Why didn't you hire some people? $10 million on phones. Imagine how many people you could have hired to process these applications and get them out in a timely manner. A right delayed is a right denied. It's just crazy to me that these things are taking 3, 4, 5 months, that a instant check, and that's the other thing is if you have an Illinois firearm owner identification card, is they're doing background checks on you continuously, something like 350 days out of the year. If you take 365 days and then minus the state and federal holidays, it's like 350 days a year you're having a continuous background check on you if you have a FOID card. I mean, it's just crazy to me that they're taking months to issue these permission slips to exercise our freedoms.
And that's just the FOID card. If you have a carry permit, they're checking your background twice a day.
And don't forget, if just anyone listening in Illinois, you do have to renew your FOID card. It seems very redundant. If you have a concealed carry license, it does not take the place of a FOID card. You have to renew both. If you fail to renew your FOID card, your concealed carry license will be revoked, and you have to start the process all over again. And that's not a pleasant experience. I've had students who have gone through that process, and I tell people, and just a friendly reminder, check your FOID card, and if it's going to expire within the next 90 days, you need to get on the Illinois State Police website, ispfsb.com, and renew that FOID card, because, as I said, if you allow it to expire, if you don't apply for renewal before it expires, then they're going to revoke your concealed carry license. You're going to have to temporarily give up your guns until you do process that renewal. So it's just a huge cluster here in Illinois.
It's a simple and dumb step, but it's very important that you do not let it lapse, or you will regret it.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't have to, but we do, and that's just the reality of the situation. So if you're letting it lapse on purpose to prove a point and you want to file a lawsuit, I'm 100% behind you. But if you're doing it on accident, I'm here to warn you, don't let it happen.
Yeah, definitely not. It's not your driver's license, where if you have an expired driver's license, it's not a real big deal. You might pay a fine, but if you let your FOID card expire, you're going to go through hell for probably a year.
And the other thing is, ever since that shooting in Aurora, what was it, I believe 2 years ago, the Illinois State Police, in conjunction with local law enforcement, have really been cracking down on expired and revoked FOID cards. And again, your FOID, your concealed carry, are revoked when you allow them to expire. And there's a difference. If you let it expire for a few days, it's not like it's a felony or anything. And I forget off the top of my head, but if that card has been expired for a few months, you're now a felon. So it's definitely, you've got to, and they're going to come to your house most likely looking for your guns. Again, since Aurora, they've been cracking down. So they're probably going to come pay you a visit. And that's not going to be a pleasant visit. So
just don't let it happen.
Yeah, again, it's unfortunate, but it is the reality of living in Illinois. So, Patrick, is there anything else you want to add while we are sitting here chatting about your experiences?
I would just say it's not good enough to just own a gun. You need to be active about owning a gun, and if you know people that have any interest in owning one, you need to be there and be a resource for them.
Be a good ambassador. Take a friend shooting. I'm taking on the 19th. I'm going down to Buffalo Rock. I'm taking, of course, my immediate family, my wife and my children, who have all been shooting many times. But I'm taking my cousin and his family, and to the best of my knowledge, this is all of their first time shooting as well. And be a good ambassador. There's something I like to call the range effect, and the range effect is quite simply, if you take someone who is a little bit curious about guns and you take them and you train them up, just not a formal training class, you just give them a basic safety, keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction, don't touch the trigger until you want to shoot, let's treat this gun like it's always loaded, and you just give them a basic safety class. You start them on something small like a 22 or maybe a 380 or something, you allow them to hit that target. Don't put it 100 miles away. Just put it right in front of them so they can hit the target and build some confidence. And for God's sakes, give them eyes and ears, and you just go about it in a safe and intelligent manner. Again, it's what I call the range effect. You're going to convert that person from being a little bit curious or even slightly anti-gun. Where I had family member who was fairly anti-gun, just due to the experiences she had in her life and some of the people she had been around who owned guns and used them carelessly, and the media propaganda brainwashing her. But once she got to experience those firearms in a safe and healthy manner, I mean, she owns multiple firearms now. So it's definitely important for us to be good ambassadors, to get more people exposed in a safe manner to firearms, and then the entire culture, the entire gun community is going to be better for it. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better trained, because it's not I believe every single gun owner should get firearms training. I just don't believe it should be mandated by the state to exercise a right. Again, as long as they're trained up, their first experience is wholesome, then you're going to have a gun owner for life.
Yeah, no, and owning a gun is more than just owning a gun. It will change your lifestyle a little bit. If you take someone who doesn't like guns, maybe they live in the city, maybe they're not your political ally. If you teach them how to shoot a gun and they enjoy that, that usually is a good way to begin to flip their other political opinions.
And that's a great point. And even if you can't flip their other political opinions, who cares? As long as you can get them to start voting pro-gun and start contacting and communicating with their elected officials and say, here's what I like to tell people, okay? I don't identify with any party affiliation, although I vote mostly for Republican because I agree with most of their ideals. I also have voted for Libertarian, and I have voted for Democrats. But, you know, the vast majority of the people that I cast my ballot for are Republicans. Now, it doesn't matter to me if I'm screaming in the face of a Democrat politician and saying, hey, you can't take my guns away, blah, blah, blah. They don't care. And the reason they don't care is because even if they were pro-gun, they know that the chances I'm going to vote for them are very, very slim. And, you know, the right to keep and bear arms is the right for all, irregardless of your political affiliation. But when you have Democrat voters in the face of Democrat politicians making a logical argument why you should not be voting for this anti-gun legislation, that's when they're going to start to listen. We need more, and I tell people all the time, and a lot of gun owners don't like to hear it. I say, you know, the Democrats have the voice in this debate because, as I just said, the Democrat politicians know Republicans aren't going to vote for them, so they don't care what we have to say. So the Democrat gun owners, you have to get more vocal. Your voice matters more than mine, and just the reality of the situation. Your voice matters more than mine. You have to talk to your elected officials politely and persistently and let them know, hey, I don't want you voting for this legislation. This legislation will restrict my right. This legislation will make it harder for me to own a gun, you know, and remind them the processes that we have to go through that they seem to forget quite frequently, even though they're the ones that wrote the law. You know, and that matters for all gun owners, but especially if you're a constituent of someone who is anti-gun, what I like to call pro-civilian disarmament. If your elected officials, your politicians are the ones that are proposing this legislation or voting, for these pieces of anti-gun legislation, you absolutely have to be involved because, like I said, your voice matters more than mine.
No, and it's important to reiterate, too, we're not demanding that everybody own a gun, but we don't want other people who don't own guns to force their non-gun owning lifestyle on the rest of us.
Exactly, right. If you don't want to own a gun, then great. Listen, I don't want to own, you know, certain things in my life that I'm just not going to buy. No one is saying, as you said, that's a perfect. No one is forcing anyone, and it's the argument about teachers with concealed carry also, right? It's like, well, you want teachers to carry guns. No, I don't want teachers to carry guns. I want teachers who want to carry guns to have the option of defending my children. If my child's teacher, obviously now it's all homeschooled, so one can say, yeah, my child's teacher does carry a gun. But, you know, when they go back to the building, if my child's teacher or principal or even the janitor wants to carry a gun, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with that. But no one is forcing them to do that. And if you don't want to buy a gun, don't buy a gun. But stop telling me I can't have one because you don't want one.
Well, no, consider this. We protect our politicians. We protect our jewelry stores, our factories, our wealthy people. We protect large events. If you ever go to a Cubs game at Wrigley Field, all the cops are there with their AR-15s. We protect all of these with guns. But then with our kids in schools, we put up a stupid little sign that says firearms are prohibited.
Yeah, a sticker on a glass door that says don't bring your gun inside, which you can quite literally just throw a rock through the window and make entrance. If you're intent on doing harm to someone, a sticker isn't going to stop that.
I think kids are more important than they're being treated in school like that.
I think kids are our most cherished and precious resource. They're our most valuable asset. We need to protect them by all means. And, there are some schools that are doing a great job. There are some really high-tech facilities being built. It's just, we can point at these nuggets, these diamonds amongst coal, shall we say. And it's just unfortunate that they're the few and not the many. But, we have to, again, that's our responsibility to stay in polite and constant contact with our elected officials and change that. It's not going to change if we don't change it. It's like a wheelbarrow full of rocks just sitting there that needs to move across the street. It's not going to move itself. It's your responsibility to move it. We all have to push that wheelbarrow together.
Well, you know what, too? I mean, if you're not doing your part to support and oppose what needs to be supported and opposed, then you don't have a right to be outraged when it doesn't go the way that you want it to go.
Yeah, people will argue that they, of course, have the right, but they just look foolish doing so.
Absolutely.
Well, we're coming up here on the end of this podcast. Patrick, I want to thank you for being here with me. I want to thank you for sharing your story. The Taco Bell story, as we all know it to be, and now the whole world, not just our Illinois gun groups, but now the whole world know the Taco Bell story. And it's unfortunate that it happens. It's happened to many people besides yourself. Swatting is a real thing. That needs to be a crime if it's not already. Making a false police report, absolutely. It's a serious thing. People can get hurt. People have gotten hurt because of it. Thanks for sharing your story about your first eye gold. I think that's absolutely awesome. I hope that teacher is still doing that. If not, I hope that more teachers that are listening will start to consider and find a way to expose their kids. But again, at the same point in time, political beliefs don't really belong in the classroom. Make it optional, not mandatory. Just try to give them a taste. Don't force your opinions on them one way or the other. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up today's podcast, Patrick?
I think that about sums it all up.
Well, again, thank you for being here. That's going to wrap up this Alpha Koncepts podcast. If anyone would like to reach out to me, you can reach me at alphakoncepts.com/podcast. If you're interested in sponsoring a podcast, definitely touch base. I'm going to put you in contact with Fire and Iron Media, and we're gonna promote your product or your service. We've got a growing that's following, and every single podcast, the growing follows. We've got some great episodes coming up. As I said before, we're going to be talking about some of the problems in the gun community, how gun owners aren't standing up for themselves, and we're going to definitely dedicate a podcast to that, as well as some other podcasts about choosing the best firearm for you for concealed carry. A lot of people will ask what the best gun is, and I'm going to answer that on how you can choose the best gun for you. So that's going to wrap up today's podcast. As always, be armed, be trained, and be alpha.